Commanders Nation, get ready because we've got 3 bombshells about to drop right now. A rookie is straight up snatching the job from a veteran who can't stop dropping passes. And Johnson isn't holding back with anyone who isn't producing. But that's not all. Our all-pro cornerback might be back this week, just when we need him most against elite wideouts who can absolutely shred us. And the final bombshell, Johnson just dropped some brutal truth about our quarterback, comparing him to his childhood idol, and what he said has the entire league buzzing. If you bail now, you'll miss out on exclusive info nobody else has. Hit that like button and subscribe because this is just getting started. Look, I'm gonna tell you something a lot of folks don't want to admit, but it's the plain truth. Luther Burden III is taking Olamide Zacos' job. And you know what? It's exactly what this team needed after years of watching this organization cling to veterans who aren't producing anymore. We finally have a coach in Ben Johnson who isn't afraid to do the right thing. Let me ask you something. How many times this year have you seen Zacos with the ball bouncing off his hands? 8 drops in 10 weeks. 8. I'm telling you this. That's unacceptable for any receiver in the National Football League, no matter how much experience you've got. And while Zacos is dropping passes, this kid from Missouri is making explosive plays every time he touches the ball. Remember that 65-yard bomb against the Cowboys in Week 3? That was Burden. Remember that key play against the Giants that set up Caleb Williams' game-winning touchdown? That was Burden. And now, in Sunday's win against Minnesota, Burden played 33 snaps, his season high. 3 receptions on 5 targets for 27 yards, and you know what's most impressive? He's catching almost everything thrown his way. Johnson said it clearly this week. You get what you earn. And I think he's ramped up the snaps. He's steadily climbed. That's what I want to hear from a coach. No politics, no favoritism because you signed a free agent contract. If you produce, you play. If you don't produce, you sit. It's that simple. And the chemistry between Burden and Caleb Williams is growing every single week. Look at this kid's route running. He's explosive off the snap, sells the vertical, gets in and out of his breaks like a 10-year veteran. Colin Cowherd is right when he says this offense looks legit. And part of that legitimacy is getting the ball to the players who are producing. But here's the real question. Why did we wait until mid-season to make this change? I think Johnson was giving Zacos every opportunity to prove he deserved that spot. But after 8 drops and inconsistent play, there were no more excuses. And you know what? I love that, because it means we have a coach who isn't afraid to make tough decisions. Now, Burden did have 1 drop against Minnesota. That's true. But the difference is this. Zacos has been dropping passes all season long. Burden has 1 drop in a game where he played more snaps than ever before. There's a difference between an isolated mistake and a pattern of inconsistency. And let me tell you something else. This is good for Caleb Williams' development. He needs receivers he can trust, especially when games are on the line. Romo Duns and DJ Moore are his primary targets. But now with Burden emerging and Colston Loveland making plays at the tight end position, this offense has real depth. Look at the stats. We're the 2nd best rushing offense in the league, 4th in total offense, top 10 in yards per play. These aren't lucky numbers, folks. These are numbers from a team that's building something real. And Burden is part of that build. Johnson said this week, his route running has improved. The veterans have shown him the way. He's progressing really well. And that's exactly what you want to hear about a 2nd-round pick. We're not talking about a project that's going to take 3 years to develop. We're talking about a player who's ready now. And here's the reality. Zacos signed a 1-year deal. Burden is a high draft pick. The organization invested significant capital in this kid. It was only a matter of time before he took that spot. And honestly, it should have happened sooner. But you know what excites me most? That this shows Johnson is building a culture of meritocracy. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran free agent or a rookie. If you produce, you play. If you don't produce, someone else will take your place. That's how you build winning teams. So I ask you, are you ready to see Burden explode in the second half of the season? And if that wasn't enough, now comes something that could completely change our defense just when we need it most. Jalen Johnson, our all-pro cornerback, might be back this week against Pittsburgh. And let me tell you why this is huge. First, the facts. Johnson hasn't played since week 2. That's 9 weeks out with an ankle injury that's been more complicated than anyone expected. But last week he had a limited practice. And now there are real signs he could be ready for Sunday. A rehab trainer who's worked with Johnson for years posted a video of him doing drills. with the caption "He's ready" at the bottom. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just social media. It doesn't mean anything. But listen to this. This same trainer worked with D'Andre Swift on his rehab. And Swift has come back playing like a man possessed. He's also working with Kyler Gordon, who just opened his 21-day window to come off injured reserve. So I ask you, is it a coincidence that all these players are working with the same trainer? And they're all coming back stronger? I'm telling you this, I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to professional rehabilitation. But here's the real question. Why do we need Johnson back now? Let me paint you the picture. This week we face Pittsburgh. And even though Aaron Rodgers might miss the game with a fractured throwing wrist, they still have DK Metcalf. And let me be clear, Metcalf isn't just any receiver. Yeah, his numbers this year are 37 receptions, 551 yards, 5 touchdowns. They're not numbers that make you tremble. But anyone who's watched Metcalf play knows he's an incredibly dangerous player. He's physical, he's fast, and if Mason Rudolph comes in at quarterback, they're probably gonna force him the ball even more. And here's the brutal reality. Tyreek Stevenson and Nahshon Wright can't cover Metcalf full time. It's not a disrespect to them, it's simply the truth. Metcalf is an elite receiver, and you need an elite cornerback to neutralize him. That cornerback is Jalen Johnson, but even if Johnson doesn't come back this week, the following week we face the Eagles on Black Friday. And you know who plays for the Eagles? A.J. Brown, another physical, elite receiver who can dominate a game. So, whether it's this week or next, we need Johnson back. And let me tell you something else. Johnson wants to be out there. This is a guy who's worked tirelessly to get back. He's been in the gym. He's been in rehab. He's been doing all the right things. And when a player of his caliber is that committed to returning, it usually means he's truly ready. Now, the question is, can Johnson come back and play at his all-pro level immediately? I think so. This is an elite professional who knows Johnson's system, who has chemistry with this defense, and who's had 9 weeks to fully heal. We're not talking about rushing him back. We're talking about a player who's taken the necessary time to be 100%. And here's what excites me. With Johnson back and Gordon potentially returning soon, this defense could look completely different in the second half of the season. We've been playing without our best cornerbacks for most of the year, and we're still 7-3 and leading the division. Imagine what we can do when we're fully healthy. But we also have to be realistic. Johnson has been out a long time. He's gonna need some snaps to get his game rhythm back. But the good news is we have depth now. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has been playing incredibly in the slot, and Johnson praised him this week, saying he's a guy we're gonna want on the field. So, how do we get Johnson and Gardner-Johnson on the field at the same time? I think Johnson can rotate between the slot and safety, especially early on while Johnson gets back into form. Gardner-Johnson has played 47 snaps in the box and 16 off the edge in his last 2 games. According to Pro Football Focus, he's versatile, he's smart, and he can play multiple positions. And here's the beauty of having all this depth. We can rotate players, keep them fresh, and have different defensive looks depending on the situation. That's what elite teams do. They don't just have good starters, they have real depth that allows them to adapt to any situation. So I ask you, are you ready to see Jalen Johnson shut down the league's best receivers again? But wait, because now comes the biggest bombshell of all. Ben Johnson just dropped some brutal truth about Caleb Williams that has everyone talking. And honestly, it's exactly what Williams needed to hear. A reporter asked Johnson if there were comparisons between Williams and Aaron Rodgers before Sunday's game. And Johnson's answer, it was so honest it hurt. He said, probably not right now. I think Rodgers is elite right now at getting the ball out of his hands. If he doesn't have the fastest snap-to-throw time in the league right now, he's got to be close. Ouch. That's a brutal reality check for a second-year quarterback who named Rodgers as one of his heroes at the 2024 Combine. But here's the thing. Johnson didn't stop there. He continued, I think our guy is similar, but we probably hold onto it a little bit more. Just where we are in the offense, as we're learning and growing. I think we'll gravitate more towards getting it out faster the more reps we get. And you know what? I completely respect that. Johnson isn't trying to protect Williams' ego. He's not telling lies to make him feel better. He's being completely honest about where Williams is in his development compared to a quarterback who's a 4-time most valuable player and Super Bowl champion. But here's the real question, is Johnson right? Let me show you the numbers. Williams has thrown for 2,329 yards, 13 touchdowns, and for interceptions, but he's only completed 59.7% of his passes. Rodgers, on the other hand, has completed 66.4% of his passes for 1,969 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So yeah, the numbers back up what Johnson is saying. Rodgers is playing at a higher level right now. But here's what Johnson is also saying. Williams is gonna get there. The more reps we get is the key to that statement. And let me tell you something. I think this kind of honesty is exactly what Williams needs. He doesn't need a coach to tell him he's already perfect. He needs a coach to tell him the truth, to show him where he needs to improve, and to give him the tools to get there. And you know what else? Williams has the perfect opportunity this Sunday to prove his coach wrong. He's gonna face the quarterback he idolized, the guy he wanted to emulate. What better motivation can there be than that? But we also have to be fair to Williams. He's in his second year. Rodgers has been in the league for almost 2 decades. The comparison isn't really fair right now. But what is fair is to expect Williams to continue improving, to continue learning, to continue developing. And honestly, Williams' numbers aren't bad. 13 touchdowns against 4 interceptions is a solid ratio. The problem is the completion percentage. And you know what? That's something that can be fixed. That comes with experience, with reps, with continuing to learn Johnson's system. Colin Cowherd said it perfectly this week when he defended the Bears against the critics. Chicago has the second best rushing attack in the league, 4th in total offense, top 10 in yards per play. I see a young coach, a young quarterback. They're great in the 4th quarter. And that's what matters, right? We're not winning by luck. We're winning because we're good. We've won 7 of 8. We're leading the division. And yeah, we have things to improve, but what team doesn't? The number one problem Johnson identified? Too many penalties. And you know what? That's something that can be fixed. That comes with discipline, with maturity, with experience. We have a new coach, a young quarterback. They're gonna make mistakes, but they're learning from those mistakes. And here's what I love about Johnson. He's not afraid to be publicly honest about the team's weaknesses. That shows confidence. That shows he's not trying to hide anything. He's saying, yeah, we have problems, but we're gonna fix them. And about Williams specifically, Johnson is setting a high standard. He's saying, look at Rodgers. That's where you need to get. And honestly, that's exactly what a young quarterback needs to hear. Because here's the reality. Williams has all the talent in the world. He was the number 1 pick for a reason. But talent alone isn't enough in the National Football League. You need experience. You need reps. You need to learn to read defenses faster, to get the ball out faster, to make better decisions under pressure. And all that comes with time. Rodgers wasn't Rodgers in his second year. Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady in his second year. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions in his rookie year. These guys became legends because they kept working, they kept improving, they kept learning. And I believe Williams is gonna do the same thing. He has the right coach, he has the right weapons around him, and now he has the right motivation to prove he can play at the level of his childhood hero. So I ask you, do you think Williams can outperform Rodgers this Sunday and show Johnson what he's made of? Look, these 3 news stories show us exactly where we stand as a team right now. We have a rookie receiver who's taking a veteran's job because he's earned it. We have an all-pro cornerback who's about to return just when we need him most. And we have a coach who isn't afraid to speak the truth, even when it hurts. Burden is stepping up because he produces. Johnson is coming back because we're healthy. And Williams has the opportunity of a lifetime to prove he belongs in the conversation with the greats. But here's my question for you. Which of these 3 news stories do you think will have the biggest impact on our season? Is it Burden emerging as a legitimate threat on offense? Is it Johnson returning to anchor our secondary? Or is it Williams using Johnson's words as motivation to elevate his game? Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you believe this team is building something special, if you believe these Bears are different from the teams we've seen in recent years, then I need you to do something for me. First, hit that like button on this video. Second, subscribe to the channel because I guarantee you tomorrow we'll have more explosive news about this team. And third, share this video with all the Bears fans you know, because this community is growing and you're part of something special. We're a family here, Navy and Orange till we die. And together we're gonna see this team do things we haven't seen in decades. But I need you to be with me, to be committed, to be ready for this journey. Because I'm telling you this, what's coming in the second half of this season is going to be epic. We have the second hardest remaining schedule in the National Football League. 2 games against the Packers, games against the Eagles and the Lions. This is going to be a battle. But if we survive this schedule, if we come out of this with a winning record in a playoff spot, nobody's going to want to face us in January. Because we'll be a battle-tested team, a team that's won in every way possible, a team that knows how to win when it matters. So are you with me? Are you ready for this journey? Because I'm all in with these Bears, and I need you to beat to bear down, Chicago. See you in the next video.